in those moments, it's essential that we come before the King of Kings and to bring those prayers and petitions to him. I want to start today by a little bit of change of pace, a little bit of doing something different. I want to start by playing a game and an activity together. So I'm going to invite you with the person next to you. Who's played like Who Am I? Like that type of game. So we're going to play What Am I this morning. So with the person next to you, I want to ask this. What am I? I increase life satisfaction by double. I boost overall well-being by 25%. I increase resilience to stress and trauma by 40%. I boost the immune function and lower inflammation in the body. Increase daily positive emotions by 35%. Improve employment productivity by 21% and produce 5 times more job satisfaction. And on average, I give you 7.5 more years to your life. Turn to the person next to you. What am I? What am I? Has anyone got any ideas? Is anyone game enough to shout out an answer? What is it? Prayer? Any other ideas? What was that? I heard coffee. I looked up these stats. It's actually community. Community, connecting together. Community, when we've got a sense of community, it does these things. And we've got 2 weeks to go in our Practising the Way series, and I thought it would be amiss of us not to take some time to talk about the need and importance of community. Community is good for our health, and it's essential for our maturity in Christ together. There's something so core to community as part of our lives and part of our expression of faith, isn't there? And if we want to be apprentices of Jesus, if we want to be following him and walking in his ways, we need to follow his ways of doing that, and he does that in community. I was reading, as I was preparing this, I was reading in Hebrews, looking at this idea of community, and in Hebrews chapter 10, it says this, it goes, "Therefore, brothers and sisters, since we have confidence to enter the most holy place by the blood of Jesus, by a new and living way opened for us through the curtain that is his body, because we've got access to God, and since we have great priest, Jesus, over the house of God, let us draw near to God with a sincere heart and full assurance of faith, that faith brings." There's we've been talking through different rhythms that we can draw near to God, right? Different practices we can do to come into his presence. So let us do that with full confidence, having hearts sprinkled to cleanse us from a guilty conscience and having bodies washed with pure water. Jesus provides the way for us to draw near to him. He models the way for us to get connection with God. He goes on, let us hold unswervingly to the hope we profess, for he who promised is faithful. And let us consider how we may spur one another on towards love and good deeds, not giving up meeting together as some of us are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another, and all the more as we see the day approaching. We've been looking at this series as we go, how do we draw near to God? And essentially tied to this is we don't do that alone. We do that in community. We do that together. Community is powerful. And community is part of the way that Jesus modeled living for God. And I thought I could talk about this, but I thought probably the best way to start that is I wanted to invite one of our friends here to come and share about community. I'm going to invite John to come forward and just share a little bit about his experience of participating and creating community. So please join me up here, John. Now, John, for those that know John, you might know John, he's a very practical guy. But you're involved in the men's shed space and you're involved in shaping that community. Can you just share a little bit about why you're involved in that space and what it means for you?
I've always been interested in working with my hands and sharing time with others, and I guess the the shed fulfills that. For me, it's about reaching out to other people and hearing their stories, perhaps sowing into their life and filling that. There's some people there that are incredibly lonely, may have lost a loved one, living alone, and it's just a place where people can chat and share.
Awesome. And community is something you experience here as part of our church community, and you carry that out in the shed space by creating community and space for others. We'll chat in a little bit during the week, and you participate in that community, and you also help create some other community spaces as well. I was wondering if you can just share a little bit about that other group that you create of guys that are able to connect together.
I think community is about taking part of your life and giving it as a gift to someone else. So it could be 30 seconds in a line when you're buying a coffee and just saying to that person, how's your shift going today? Or how are things with you? And it's incredible how people will often be a little surprised and then open up and tell you about their life. And one experience was Marie and I went to a place to get an appliance repaired, and I just shared with the guy and asked him, and he said, he did all the business stuff, and then he just said, well, we've just found out we're having a baby. My wife and I are having a baby after something like 15 years. The kids had grown up. They had 3 older children. His wife was in a job, and he just shared, and we talked about how valuable that baby would be to them, and how every baby is a gift from God. And he ended up sending me an email later and just thanking me, and I'd sort of formed that bond with that chap, and I'll probably never see him again, but he went away feeling so much better about this new baby that was coming into their life after all these years. So it's about, I just see it as a gift, and it can be, Marie and I go with our caravan, we often, one of us will head off to the facilities and come back 45 minutes later because we've met people along that journey. So, and other things that can be, I run a small breakfast group. It meets around about once a month, and that's a mixture of Christians and non-Christians, and what's shared in that group stays in that group. And it's interesting that over the time we've been running it, how people can share stuff that's happening in their life, and they know that it's a trusted space, and that no one's going to ridicule them or anything like that. It's just a place where people can share.
Awesome. And just finally, as you've done this, like I can hear the passion in you as you share, like this genuine connection for others. Just really briefly, what does community mean to you? Like in experiencing community and sharing it, how does that form part of how you follow Jesus?
Well, I think it's incredibly important. Those stats are very true. And I think people need people. People need people to share with, to talk to laugh with, to cry with, all of those things. I worked in aged care, and in particular social housing and affordable homes for quite a number of years. And when I first started, we'd have like 2 or 3 vacant units at a time. And I thought, why is that? And what it was, it's when that bond of community is broken, often the other 2 people would fall over as well. So you had like 3 people tottering through life together, or living life in that community, and then one would go into care, so the other 2 would say, oh, well, I'll go as well. So they wanted that same bond to continue on. And people do definitely live longer in community than when you're isolated. It's just so important to be with other people and share. So
thank you. Thank you for sharing with us, John. You can give John a round of applause for coming and sharing. Hopefully you could get a sense of how important community is. As you hear John share that, the passion that flows from him and his experience in community and creating that for others. I think that there's something inside of each of us that's hardwired for connection and for community, isn't there? I think that's part of who God has made us to be people who need people who live in community. You see, at the very heart of God, his very heart and his nature is communal. He's forever existed as Father, Son, and Spirit, equally God, equally one, perfect community. expressed and experienced in love. God has always existed as the perfect expression of community. And it's out of this loving relationship that we see in God, the Father, Son, and Spirit. See, out of this relationship that God creates the world as an expression and an extension of his love and community. And as God creates the world, he creates the world to be in relationship with him. He wants to be in relationship with his creation. And at the high point of all of this, he creates humanity. Humanity created in his image. And what image is that? In the image of one of relationship and love. We're created in the image of a relational, communal God, a God of love, the perfect image of community. So for each of us inside, we're created, we're people who need people, we're people who need community, we're created for community. And it's this yearning and this desire inside of each of us that we have, that we're created to have community. Community, firstly, with ourselves, to know ourselves. One of the saddest things that you can experience is someone who's disconnected from who they are as a person. To feel comfortable enough in your own skin, to know who you are, to listen to who you are, so you can share that with others. We're created to have community with God, this vertical relationship, connected with our Father in heaven, to know and be known by him. We're created for community with each other, to be in community, to live in community, to support, strengthen, encourage, and walk alongside. Community strengthens who we are. And we're created to have community, to be in connection with all of creation, to be God's agents in this world, people of healing, people of peace. This is what we're wired for. This is hardwired into who we are as people. It was Augustine who said, "You have made us for yourself, O Lord, and our hearts are restless until it rests in you." Created for connection, created for community. So then for each of us as apprentices of Jesus, not only are we made for community, we've got this hard wiring for it, this yearning for community, but as apprentices of Jesus, we've received community. Relationship with God, relationship with each other. We've received community and we're called to create community for others. See, this is what Jesus is saying in John 13, and he says, "Love one another as I have loved you, so you must love one another. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples, if you love one another." You've experienced love, so love one another, share it. You've experienced connection with God, you've experienced community, so share that with others. Everyone will know you're my disciples if you love one another. And you know, our world, we've touched on this, our world is crying out for real community, aren't they? We all know people who are crying out for real connection, for someone to see them, for someone to know them, for someone to pick up the phone and give them a call, to show them that they matter, that they're important. I'm sure if I asked you to picture someone, it wouldn't be that hard to picture someone that you've got some kind of connection with. You go, oh, they need a bit more community in their life. When I was younger, I used to go into prisons and play soccer. And one of the first experiences I ever had was in a juvie. There was up to 25-year-olds, and there was this young guy. We go and play soccer, and I've turned this guy with the ball. Right, so I've taken it off him, and he's turned around and just booted me as hard as he could in my calf muscle in response. And part of our practice in there, we had two things. Firstly, we taught each other not to react if someone does something, but we were also on the lookout for someone that showed the characteristics that we wanted to see. Someone who encouraged each other, who walked alongside each other. And apart from that one instance, this kid, he encouraged his teammates. He passed the ball. He did everything. So at the end of the time, we awarded him a medallion. And he went through and tried to give that to every single other person. He came up to me and was like, "Mate, I deliberately kicked you. You should have this. You didn't react." And we said, "No, you deserved it." We named what happened. And this 18-year-old breaks down crying. It's not recommended in a prison to do that, by the way. He breaks down crying and says, "This is the first thing I've received in my life. No one's ever given me anything before." We don't have to look too far to find people who need community, do we? I wonder what had happened if his teacher, his neighbor, someone who came into contact with him slowed down enough to see him. We currently live in a world where being socially connected to others is really accessible. It's second nature. We carry one of these around in our pockets most of the time, right? Social media, connection to others. We've got the ability anywhere in the world to be connected or feel connected with someone. Yet, currently in Australia, 1 in 5 people report feeling socially isolated and lonely. 1 in 5 people. This is mirrored in those who are age 60 plus. So people over 60 would say 1 in 5 people over 60 would say that they feel socially isolated. When you look at Gen Z, those aged 13 to 28, those who have grown up in a world that's been digitally connected, they know what it's like, they live in this world, 73% report feeling isolated and lonely. Church, I want to say to us today that we're created for community. It's God's fingerprints on our lives. We need each other. The world needs authentic Christian community. And as disciples, as those who apprentice under Jesus, we need each other, and we're meant to walk this journey together. So for the rest of our time this morning, I would just want to unpack for us what it means to live out authentic Christian community together. And in doing this, we're going to work through 2 passages, 2 interactions of Jesus. So you got Bible, I'm going to invite you to turn to Mark chapter 5. We're going to work through this passage together to start with. So Mark chapter 5, verse 22. It's going to be up on the screen as well. It starts in verse 22 and says, "Then one of the synagogue leaders named Jairus came, and when he saw Jesus, he fell at his feet. He pleaded earnestly with him, 'My little daughter is dying. Please come and put your hands on her so that she may be healed and live.' So Jesus went with him. A large crowd followed and pressed around him. And a woman was there who had been subject to bleeding for 12 years. She had suffered a great deal under the care of many doctors and had spent all that she had. Yet instead of getting better, she grew worse. When she heard about Jesus, she came up behind him in the crowd and touched his cloak, because she thought, 'If I just touch his clothes, I will be healed.' And immediately her bleeding stopped, and she felt in her body that she was free from her suffering. At once Jesus realized that power had gone out from him. He turned around in the crowd and asked, 'Who touched my cloak? Who touched my clothes?' 'You see the people crowding against you,' his disciples answered, 'and you ask, who touched my clothes? Who touched me?' But Jesus kept looking around to see who had done it." We'll pause there. How easy would have it been for Jesus in that moment to just keep walking and that woman to have just been healed? How easy would have it been for Jesus just to go on with his business, to race to see this little girl who was dying and this woman to just have been healed? But for Jesus, community begins with authentic connection. He doesn't just want to interact with people as one who can perform a miracle and then walk away. He's not there to be a genie or a miracle worker or just simply a pathway to salvation. He wants to build connections with people. See, everything that Jesus does in his ministry life is built on and modeled around relationships with people. And it makes sense, doesn't it? Relationships are built upon connection. Like, I don't know if any of you here have been in a relationship that's almost like a one-way relationship, whether it's with friends or with a group of friends or a workplace, something where you're the one who's giving out. You're the one who's sending the messages, organizing catch-ups. You're the one in the group that gives of yourself, that holds the group together. But you may not be getting it reciprocated in return. It's hard in a one-way relationship, isn't it? It can drain our souls a bit. But the real expression of Christian community comes when we move beyond the busyness of the crowds, when we're not running out the door to get to the next thing. Christian community comes when we move beyond simply attending church to when we start being community together. If you want to be an apprentice of Jesus, we don't attend church to get a spiritual top-up. No, we need to slow down, to become curious about what's happening around us and build authentic connections. To not just run on to the next thing, but to slow down, to go, who is this person that just interacted with me, that I just interacted with them? Just want you to picture for a moment a time that someone might have opened up to you to share a little bit of their life. There might be a joyous moment. They've shared a celebration. We heard that a little bit with John as he interacted with someone. We've just had a baby coming into our lives. They've opened up and shared a moment with you. It could be a moment of pain and sorrow. Someone opens up and shares this thing that's really hard. So I invite you, can you picture a moment that someone shared part of their story with you? And as they've done that, what's happened to your connection with that person when they've invited you into that shared space? So I was thinking about this. I was thinking about moments where I've had the privilege of sharing in people's lives with them, where they've opened up and shared something that's hard or shared this moment of joy. And honestly, I think our connection was strengthened in that. It builds a sense of love and trust as we share stories together. To not just run through the crowds, to move on to what we're doing, but to slow down and to see the people who are around us. As a community here, that's why we create spaces for tea and coffee afterwards. It's why we built the cafe space here, because we want to create opportunities for us to build authentic connections with the people we interact with. So how are you going with creating authentic connections? Are you seeing people? Are you seeing the people who sit beside you, who walk life beside you? As you interact with people, are you seeing them as people or projects? Are you wanting to save people that don't know Jesus, or are you getting to know people as well? I want to implore us all as a community of people who are trying to apprentice under Jesus to not just come to church, but rather to be the church, to connect together, to get to know each other, to hear stories and build authentic connections, not just to move on. Jesus kept looking around to see who had touched his clothes. And then this woman, knowing what had happened to her, came and fell at his feet, trembling with fear. And she told him the whole truth, her whole truth. She came forward, fearful, frightened, and she told Jesus her whole truth, her whole story. See, in the first moment when Jesus is looking around, he sees the woman. He sees her. She comes forward. Now he lets her know that she's seen by sitting down and hearing her story. He sees her, not just with his eyes, but with his ears. He connects with her. I wonder how many of us can say that we are truly seen. It's a special thing, is it not? To have someone to care enough not to just connect with us, but to care enough to slow down, to get in the dirt and to truly see who we are. See, Jesus heals her body when she touches his cloak. Yet it's through the slowing down, the sitting with people, providing authentic support for them, that people themselves are healed. Jesus, in the middle of the street, in the middle of the crowd, in the middle of the busyness, sits down and hears her whole story. And I like to think about this and go, how long does it take to sit down and hear 12 years of pain? 12 years of suffering. How long did he sit down in the middle of that crowd for? If we want to be apprentices of Jesus, maybe too, we need to get down in the dirt and sit with one another and slow down and hear stories. As a staff team here, one of our core values is that we want to be people who embrace the mess. We know that life can be messy. We know that some things are hard and they suck, and trying to build community together is a messy place. But we don't want to hide from the mess. We want to lean into it. We want to embrace it. To help be a place where people can be real. To be a community that moves beyond pleasantries of just seeing one another, coming together, but be a community where we're honest with each other, sharing life together, offering both authentic connection and authentic support for those that we walk with. Yet we can't do that as a community together without you guys, without everyone. We all have a part to play. That is, as apprentices of Jesus, we receive community, and now we need to start creating that for each other. And if we want to be authentic community, it needs two things. Firstly, we need to be vulnerable with each other. To let others into the moments of joy, the moments of sorrow and hardships. We need to be open and vulnerable with each other. And then on the receiving end of that, we need to be people who are prepared to sit in the dirt with each other, to hear the stories, and to offer love in response, to care for the person that we sit with. Is that something that we're prepared to do? Is that something we're prepared to do? It's not a small thing. If you actually take it on, I'm asking us to put a lot on the line with this. Because if someone opens up and shares with us the deep things that are going on, and that's not met in love, if that's not met in support, then it radically hinders our ability to form real Christian community. This woman, she came trembling in fear. She didn't know how she would be received by Jesus. She didn't know how Jesus was going to respond. And so do we when we want to sit with others. If we're going to open up, we don't know what's going to happen on the other side of that. It takes courage. I started at Croydon Hills 10 years ago, and I remember being over on the border at one point, and I was sitting there and I was talking with Matt Moran at the time, and I remember just saying, if the guys knew that some of the stuff that was going on in my life at this moment, would they care about me? Would I be accepted? I was really struggling with some personal things going on at this moment. And Matt turned to someone else on the team and said, "What do you think of Ben?" And it was met with love and acceptance. This question, would they accept me if they knew, is a question that sits with all of us. Would I be loved if they knew what was going on? What would happen if I opened up about the things in my life, the struggles in my life, or the sins that I can't break, or the addictions that take hold, whatever that looks like, or the habits that I'm stuck in? Would I be loved? Would I be accepted? Would I be welcomed? And there's some of us that sit in the room today that are asking these questions. And all the challenges of living in community, the challenges of like the busyness that we have, the transience, the distractions, flakiness, the emotional immaturity that can happen in community, no other challenge is greater than that challenge of shame, that question of would I be accepted? Would I be loved if they knew? See, shame as a thing is the greatest disconnector between us and God. It's the thing that makes us want to run away. It's the greatest disconnector between us and each other. It's the greatest disconnector in our faith is where we're asking this question, would I be accepted? Yet if we can share and we're open, we're vulnerable, we confess, or we let people in this space, and that's met in love and acceptance, it's one of the most transformative reconnectors of us to community and to God, where we see a God that can accept us because his people accept us. And if we want to be apprentices of Jesus, we need to be a community that's offering authentic support to each other. Because it's the getting down in the dirt, the hearing the stories, truly seeing people and responding in love that brings true healing and real Christian community. This woman, she came, she fell at his feet, she told Jesus her whole truth, her whole story. And Jesus said, "Daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace and be freed from your suffering." It's only when someone's truly seen that authentic love can be shared. And Jesus declares in this moment publicly that she's been healed. The street is packed. He's sitting in the middle of the street. The crowd's like, "Are you going to come?" They're watching Jesus closely. And he says before all of them, she's been healed. She was an outcast. She was shamed and isolated. Yet Jesus declares to everyone that she's been healed. And in doing so, he challenges the people. He challenges the crowd. If she is healed, now will you accept her? This is the challenge of community. That is, for us to have real, authentic Christian community together, it takes action on each of our parts. It takes action on your part, on your part, on your part, all of us. It isn't someone else's responsibility to create community. But the question is, are you prepared to accept, to welcome, to forgive, to show authentic love to the people that you interact with? I'm not going to lie, this is hard stuff to do in practice. This is hard stuff to live out every day. Because honestly, it's in community that person that you least want to interact with, that person that drives you up the wall, it's in community that's where that person lives. That's the one we're called to interact with. This person that you just wish you didn't have to sit down and have another conversation with, they live in community. And we're called to love them, to forgive them, and to spur one another on in our faith in following Jesus together. And the way that we can do that, the way that we can continually show authentic love, authentic support in these moments is because real Christian community is not built upon our shared opinions. It's not built upon our shared theology. It's not built upon our shared preferences. But as apprentices of Jesus, what holds our community together, the thing that unites us is Jesus himself. So the thing that unites us is Jesus. What holds us together as a community is Jesus. How do you keep forgiving and forgiving and forgiving? It's because of Jesus. What makes you return to loving again and again and again? It's Jesus. It doesn't make community easy at times. But the clearest message that we are the followers of Jesus, that we're apprenticing under him, is our ability to show up and show love again and again and again. To show love to your brothers and sisters, to show them the love of Jesus by sharing that authentic love with them. See, real Christian community is one that's built upon authentic connections to see the people that we interact in life with. It's by showing authentic support through hearing people's stories, not just seeing them, but slowing down and connecting together on that deeper level. By showing authentic love, by revealing the love of Jesus in how we respond as those stories are shared. And finally, real Christian community is one that is not self-serving. It's not about those who just gather inside of our walls, but rather how we meet with those beyond the walls, in the coffee shops, as we go through life, as we go through our workplaces. It's how we meet and serve those beyond the walls. In Luke 14, if you want to turn there, it says this from verse 16. And Jesus replied, "A certain man was preparing a great banquet and invited many guests. At the time of the banquet, he sent his servant to tell those who have been invited, 'Come, for everything is now ready.' But they all alike began to make excuses. The first said, 'I've bought a field. I must go see it. Please excuse me.' Another said, 'I've bought 5 yoke of oxen and I'm on my way to try them out. Please excuse me.' Still another said, 'I just got married, so I can't come.' The servant came back and reported to his master, Then the owner of the house became angry and ordered the servant, "Go quickly to the streets and the alleys of the town and bring the poor, the crippled, the blind, the lame." "Sir," the servant said, "what you have ordered has been done, but there's still room." And the master told his servant, "Go out to the roads and the country lanes and compel them to come in, so that my house will be full. I tell you, not one of those who are invited will taste this great banquet." See, Jesus, when he's forming community, he doesn't just want to have community with his disciples. He doesn't just want to have community for those that are doing it right or those who are at the top echelons of society. He doesn't just want to be with his mates, with his people. No, Jesus looks also towards those who are outside, to those who we think are not good enough, to those that don't have it all together, and he extends community to them. He says, "I want my house to be full. Who else can we invite? Who can I invite to be around my table?" So as we talk about community, I wonder who are the people who sit at your table? Who do you hold community with? Maybe as you come to church, as you come and sit in a service each week, do you sit in the same seats? Do you talk to the same group of people? When was the last time you spoke to someone whose story you didn't know? What are you doing to have opportunities to connect with people who don't go to this church, who don't know God? You know, I think it can be easy for us to feel like we have community because we've got a close group of friends around us. People who we enjoy seeing, who encourage us, who build us up in Jesus, in our faith. And these are really good things. This is really good things to have. But if we become so focused on our friendship that we don't see and connect with those beyond our groups, we don't look to those who get overlooked, who get left off the invite. If we fall into the trap where we don't see others, then we might have a really good friendship group, but I don't think this is real Christian community. If our churches just simply look like us, we're only meeting with people who look like us, it could be a really great time of worship and connection together. But if we don't look beyond that, then we're probably not living real Christian community. If we're comfortable, if we just go through the motions, if we attend and we consume church and without participating in the broader life of walking through life together, it may not be real Christian community. Because if you want to share the same table as Jesus, then I encourage you to look around at who's sitting at your table. And if it isn't those who Jesus shares tables with, if it isn't those who are on the margins, those who are hurting, those who are broken, it might be a good friendship group, but it may not be the same Christian community that Jesus is wanting to build. Because if we're wanting to apprentice under Jesus, if we've received community, if we know what it means to be loved, then we're called to create that for others. So what is real Christian community? What does Jesus do? How does he create that? I think he invites us to join him as he sees people. Firstly, it's a community where we see people with our eyes, where we seek to connect with people, not just heal them, not just interact with them, not just go through the motions alongside, but to slow down enough to see them, to build authentic connections. We don't just see with our eyes, but we see with our ears. We listen to their stories to let them know that they're seen for who they are. We're people who hear the stories, who get to know people, who slow down enough, who sit in the dirt to provide authentic support for each other. We listen, we connect together. I think authentic community is when we see people with our hearts. We don't just listen to them, but we connect to their story by offering love and an extension of acceptance towards them. That motion where Jesus goes, your faith has healed you. We love them in response and accept people and connect together We offer authentic love by connecting to them with our hearts. And finally, it's a community where we see them with our lives, where we live lives that aren't just self-serving. We don't just offer sentiments to people, but we make a spot available at our table for them to sit. Where we connect together and we invite those on the outside to come and join. See, authentic community isn't just about cliques, it's about real connection. So as apprentices of Jesus, I want to ask, how are you going in creating real Christian community? Are you seeing people with your eyes, your ears, your hearts, your lives? Who's sitting at your table? Who do you need to invite? And who do you need to get to know? That's the invitation of Jesus. Let's pray together. Father, I thank you that you're a God that sees us, that you're a God that's wanting to connect with us in real and authentic ways, that you want to connect with your people so much that you step into the lives and into our world to build this connection and community, that you invite us into your table, into your relationship. And I ask for each of us that we, as people who know what it means to be seen by you, to know your love, to know your support and what you bring in our lives, may we be people that create that for others. That as we go through life, that we'll be inviting others to sit at the table in the seat that you've prepared for them. That when people come into our midst here, that they may be known, that they may know that they're seen, that they're loved, that they're supported. Because there's a God that loves them and a community that reveals that. So for us as a community today, if there's people here as we gather who don't feel seen, Father, I ask that we'll be prepared to be vulnerable, to share that, to invite others into our lives. That when people share, that we will be able to respond by seeing them, by slowing down and to respond in love. I ask that people would know that you are real and moving because they've experienced by connecting with us as your people, your apprentices, your followers. I ask that you'd be moving in us and through us. I ask this in Jesus' name. Amen. Prepare to close in a time of worship. If for you this morning, as we sit here, if you go, I need to be seen, I need to be known, I'm going to invite you this morning, we've got our prayer space down in this corner, to take a moment of courage, to come forward in vulnerability and to sit. And we're going to have some people gathered there. They're happy to sit and to pray with you, to hear your story, to pray and support. So if this morning, either during the last song or after the service, I'll be sitting down there. A couple of people will come and join me. But if you'd like some prayer, I just invite you to come and to use that space.